Okay, let's unpack this. For this deep dive, we're looking at a real American icon, but maybe through a different lens.
Yeah.
Especially with Memorial Day coming up.
Right.
We're focusing on Elvis Presley. Yes, the king, but specifically Elvis the soldier.
Exactly. And our mission here really is to explore that part of his life, the bit that sometimes gets overshadowed, by the music, the movies.
Sure.
We want to look at what that time was actually like, the personal sacrifices involved, and how his service still connects to ideas of duty and patriotism today.
And straight away, looking at the sources, there's this core fact that just jumps out. I mean, here's Elvis, right? He's at the absolute pinnacle, global fame. Everything's exploding for him.
Mm-hmm. Biggest star on the planet, arguably.
And he just hits pause on everything to join the army.
Mm-hmm.
But it's how he did it that's really striking, isn't it?
It really is.
He didn't go for the special services route, entertaining troops.
Yeah.
Which he easily could have.
Oh, absolutely. They offered it.
He deliberately chose to be a regular GI, to serve alongside everyone else. And the reason? He wanted to earn genuine respect. That's what the sources suggest.
Yeah, and it seems like that decision, it was pretty widely admired back then, across the board.
A powerful move for someone of his stature.
Definitely. So let's pinpoint that moment. He gets drafted March 24th, 1958, right there in Memphis, Tennessee.
Just imagine getting that notice. You're Elvis Presley in 1958. It really puts that choice in perspective, doesn't it?
It really does. He could have pushed for an easier path, easily, but he chose the common route. Seeking that respect you mentioned, the kind that comes from, sharing that experience.
So he gets drafted, and then it's off to basic training.
Yep. Fort Hood, Texas. That's where he did his basic.
And there's that interesting detail about Fort Hood, too. He wasn't actually living on base the whole time.
Right. He lived off base with his dad, Vernon, and his friend Lamar Fike. So, doing basic training during the day, but then going home, it's sort of a surreal mix, isn't it?
Totally.
Yeah.
The ordinary and the absolutely extraordinary all tangled up, which seems like a theme with him.
It does. So after basic, he gets his assignment, 3rd Armored Division, and he's stationed over in Friedberg, West Germany.
Right, and even over there in Germany, we hear about his character shining through these stories of generosity.
Yeah, like buying TVs and appliances for the guys in his unit.
Helping out fellow soldiers, apparently donating his army pay to charity.
Mm-hmm. It suggests he managed to stay, pretty grounded despite the insane level of fame he already had.
But that time wasn't all positive. It also brought some really tough personal challenges.
That's true. While he was in Germany, August 1958, he gets some terrible news from home. He had to get emergency leave.
To rush back to Memphis, yeah.
Yeah.
Because his mother, Gladys, was critically ill.
Yes. And, it's just a heartbreaking part of his story. She passed away on August 14th, 1958.
Devastating for him. He called her his best girl, didn't he?
He did. Said she was the only person he truly, truly loved. Her death hit him incredibly hard. It was a massive turning point for him, emotionally, spiritually.
And experiencing that kind of profound loss while serving overseas, it adds another whole layer to the sacrifice involved.
Absolutely. And there's another significant, though difficult, thing that happened during his time in Germany.
Ah, yes. The introduction to amphetamines.
Right. It seems this happened within the context of military life over there. Apparently, those kinds of stimulants were, not uncommon in the military at the time. Maybe used to fight fatigue, stay alert on duty, that kind of thing.
So the environment itself played a role.
It seems so. It doesn't excuse later issues, of course, but understanding when and where his exposure to amphetamines began during his service is an important piece of the puzzle regarding his later health struggles.
So he finishes his service after going through all this, the training, the deployment, the immense personal grief, these new challenges.
He does. He serves his time, gets honorably discharged on March 5, 1960.
And he rose through the ranks, too.
Yep. He came out as a sergeant, E5.
And his return home, it really seemed to mark a change, didn't it? Both in him and how people saw him.
Oh, definitely. The consensus is that military service matured him. It genuinely reshaped his public image.
How so?
Well, think about it. A lot of people, especially maybe older Americans, who'd seen him as this sort of rebellious figure.
The swivel hips, the rock and roll.
Exactly. Now they saw this young man who had, stepped up, done his duty, served his country. That earned him a whole new kind of respect across generations, really.
And you can almost see that reflected in his career right after, can't you? The shift.
You absolutely can. He moves away from that raw rockabilly sound and image, starts making more Hollywood movies, becomes more of a, well, a mainstream leading man. It's a distinct new chapter.
But the connection to patriotism, to the country, that didn't just disappear when he took off the uniform.
Not at all. He kept expressing it. You see it later, particularly in his music.
Like an American trilogy.
That's a prime example, yeah. That medley he performed in the 70s. It's always described as this really powerful, almost stirring tribute to America, its history, its sacrifices.
And his gospel music too, perhaps.
Definitely. His gospel and inspirational recordings, they often touch on themes of faith, freedom, sacrifice. Those ideas seem to run deep for him, maybe even more so after his time in the Army and everything he went through.
So connecting this back to Memorial Day, how does Elvis's story fit? I mean, he didn't die in combat.
No, he didn't. But the point being made is that the sacrifices were still significant, very real.
Stepping away from that level of fame,
Yeah.
that alone is huge.
Unprecedented, really. And then dealing with his mother's death while deployed overseas, prioritizing the country's call over his own skyrocketing career. These are, profound personal sacrifices.
So his service becomes a kind of reminder.
I think so. A reminder that patriotism isn't only found on the battlefield. It can also be in those quieter, courageous choices, like his decision to just be Private Presley, a regular soldier.
And thinking about it like that maybe broadens how we view Memorial Day itself.
Possibly. It's primarily for honoring those who made the ultimate sacrifice, of course. But it's also a time to remember all who served, who sacrificed in different ways. And maybe his story, his choices helped shape the cultural soul of a generation in its own way.
For anyone listening who wants to dig deeper into this specific part of his life, there's actually a place to do that, right?
Yes, absolutely. At Graceland in Elvis Presley's Memphis complex, there's a dedicated exhibit called Private Presley.
Right. I've heard about that. It lets you see his Army time up close.
Exactly. They have his original uniforms, letters he wrote, personal photos, stories from his service buddies. It really focuses on that period.
And they do something special around Memorial Day, too.
Yeah, apparently they offer special guided tours around Memorial Day that specifically highlight his soldier legacy. It's a way to connect directly with that aspect of his life.
It sounds like a really tangible way to understand that that less seen side of the king. So wrapping up this deep dive then, his journey from this ultimate rock and roll rebel to a respected American soldier.
Yeah.
It's a really powerful chapter, often overlooked.
It really is. And it serves as maybe a good reminder on Memorial Day. While we focus rightly on ultimate sacrifice, we can also remember the many, many forms service takes and the significant personal costs for everyone who puts on that uniform.
So the final thought for you listening. How does knowing about these kinds of unexpected sacrifices, the ones made away from the spotlight, away from the battlefield, change how you perceive someone? How does knowing about Private Presley maybe shift how you think about Elvis the King?
Yeah, and how does that challenge us maybe to see all the different ways duty and patriotism get expressed? Often it's in those quiet decisions, those personal commitments that really shape a life, and sometimes even shape a generation.
Definitely something to reflect on as we remember.